Welcome back to our channel. Got old pennies at home? One of these could change your life. Check the top 5 and subscribe for more coin tips. In 1983, the US Mint was still adjusting to a pivotal transformation that had occurred just the year before. After over 2 decades of minting Lincoln cents in bronze, 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, the switch had been made to copper-plated zinc in mid-1982. The reason was economic. Rising copper prices had made it costlier to produce the cent than the coin's own face value. By the time 1983 arrived, copper cents were, in theory, a thing of the past. The new zinc core, coated with a thin veneer of copper, became the standard. Efficient, cost-effective, and mechanically identical in design to what had come before. But not everything went according to plan. Despite the Mint's efforts to cleanly transition to the new planchets, the production floors across Philadelphia and Denver were still stabilizing. With billions of coins to strike and machinery operating at relentless speeds, even a small lapse in sorting could have wide-reaching consequences. And so, within the vast output of 1983 Lincoln cents, a rare few carried an inconsistency no one noticed at first, not in look, but in feel, in weight, and eventually, in sound. For years, these anomalies went undetected. They were ordinary in appearance. The obverse still showed Lincoln's profile, the reverse still displayed the Lincoln Memorial. To the average spender, they were the same as any other coin in their change. But as it always goes with numismatics, time and observation reveal what the moment overlooks. Daniel Fraser, a dedicated coin roll hunter from Oregon, had been sorting pennies for over a decade. He specialized in finding doubled dies, off-center strikes, and clipped planchets. In his basement, tucked between magnifying lamps and digital scales, he worked his way through boxes of coins from local banks. He knew the weight of a coin by touch, the echo of a metal strike by ear. And in the fall of 2010, while scanning through a box of 1983 cents, one piece made him pause. It wasn't anything visible at first. No dramatic doubling, no obvious strike-through. But when he dropped it lightly on his metal table, the sound it made stood out, a crisp, ringing tone, unlike the duller thud of a zinc cent. His hands moved automatically to the scale. The reading flashed, 3.11 grams. He rechecked it. Again, 3.11 grams. The standard weight for a pre-1982 bronze cent. His heart pounded. This couldn't be right. All 1983 pennies were supposed to be made from copper-plated zinc, weighing 2.5 grams. A weight of 3.11 grams suggested something much older. Either the scale was wrong, or the coin was unlike any other 1983 cent he'd come across. He flipped the coin back and forth. It bore the familiar P mint mark for Philadelphia. He studied the edges. No unusual wear, no evidence of post-mint tampering. It was clean, smooth, and unmodified. What he held in his palm didn't belong in its time. A 1983 cent struck on a bronze planchet was not just an error, it was a remnant, something that wasn't supposed to exist. He sent the coin to PCGS for authentication. He opted for full metallurgical testing to confirm what the scale had hinted at. The weight was brutal. When the package returned weeks later, he held the slab up to the light and read the label, 1983 P Lincoln cent transitional error. Struck on bronze planchet. -55 Australian dollars. It was real. The discovery quickly made waves in specialized circles. This was not a minor anomaly. The 1983 transitional bronze cent represented a production error rooted in the chaotic transition from copper to zinc. The prevailing theory suggested that a small number of leftover bronze blanks, perhaps misplaced or overlooked during the transition, were fed into the striking chambers at the Philadelphia Mint by mistake. Unlike 1982, where 2 compositions were used officially, 1983 was meant to be uniform. That made the existence of such coins all the more improbable. Daniel's discovery wasn't the first of its kind. A few examples had been authenticated before, but they were so rare that they bordered on myth. Only a handful had been confirmed, each met with intense interest and fierce bidding. What made his find even more compelling was its condition, -55 Australian dollars, a relatively high grade for a coin likely struck on a decades-old blank. That kind of preservation suggested the coin had slipped into circulation but found its way into safety before heavy wear could occur. Collectors became obsessed. The 1983 bronze cent began to appear in discussions across forums, auction catalogs, and collector networks. The error wasn't just about metal, it was about timing, about mint protocol, and about rarity born from human oversight. The fact that such an error occurred a full year after the official transition amplified its mystique. Soon after Daniel's find, another surfaced at a West Coast show, though heavily circulated and scratched, grading only VF20. Still, it sold privately for nearly $20,000. Then a third was found in an estate collection in Florida, buried among wheat pennies in a dusty cigar box. That one graded EF40 and sold at auction $4.37000. But it was Daniel's coin that drew the most attention. One prominent collector offered him $48,000 shortly after authentication. He declined. The coin represented more than its value. It was history, unexpected and unrecorded. A quiet survivor of a bygone alloy, accidentally given new life in a time that had left it behind. As more experts examined the 1983 bronze cent error, they found another detail worth noting. While the weight and composition were telltale, the strike itself also carried subtle variations. Some of these coins showed weaker than normal detail, particularly in the lower lines of the Lincoln Memorial. Others had soft rims or ghosting near the motto. These minor signs pointed toward an old blank being forced into service by dies calibrated for zinc, an alloy difference that, while invisible to many, left small fingerprints for those who knew how to look. The error also reignited a debate within the collector world about the nature of transitional coins. Most transitional errors are expected during the overlap of composition changes. But in the case of the 1983 bronze cent, there was no overlap. It was supposed to be zinc and nothing else. That meant the error was not just rare, it was an aberration. A glitch in a system that had otherwise completed its transition successfully. Auction houses began listing authenticated examples with fanfare. One MS-62 bronze 1983 cent sold for over $90,000 in 2021, setting a benchmark for the category. Daniel's coin remained unlisted, but insurance estimates placed its potential auction value between $60,000 and $100,000 depending on demand. Still, he held on to it, displaying it occasionally at small collector shows, never advertising it but always willing to tell its story. The rarity of the 1983 bronze cent lies not in flashy appearance, but in quiet contradiction. It looks like any other coin from that year. It carries no abnormal design or dramatic die flaw. But beneath its surface is a composition that should have vanished by then. That contrast, between expectation and reality, makes it irresistible. Today, the value of a verified 1983 Lincoln cent struck on a bronze planchet ranges between $48,000 and $125,000, depending on grade and provenance. But for collectors who seek more than price tags, its true worth lies in its defiance of certainty. In a world where billions of pennies are forgettable, this one reminds us that even in the most familiar places, something rare can hide for decades, waiting for someone with the right eyes, the right hands, and the patience to listen to the difference in a coin's ring. In the mid-1990s, the United States Mint was producing Lincoln cents that seemed, at first glance, as familiar as ever. The year 1995 was no different. Lincoln's profile gazed out from the obverse, the familiar Lincoln Memorial graced the reverse, and the coins were struck in the standard copper-plated zinc composition that had become the norm since 1982. Millions of these pennies entered circulation, used in everyday transactions, tucked into jars, and jumbled in cash registers. Yet among these countless coins, a rare and unexpected anomaly quietly emerged, challenging the routine and captivating collectors years later. The story of the 1995 US 1 cent era begins deep within the mint's production process, where enormous volumes of coins are struck daily under intense pressure to meet demand. Despite stringent quality controls, the complexities of minting ensure that errors sometimes slip through the cracks. One such error involved the 1995 penny, but it was not a glaring design flaw or an off-center strike. Instead, It was an understated yet highly significant physical anomaly that would not be immediately obvious to the casual observer. For many years, these coins passed unnoticed. Their differences were subtle, almost imperceptible. But for dedicated numismatists like Sarah Whitman, a passionate collector from Ohio, these nuances were a beacon. Sarah had spent years studying Lincoln cents, drawn by their long history and the endless variations that could occur during minting. In 2014, while sorting through rolls from a local bank, she encountered something that made her stop. One 1995 penny caught her eye, not because it looked unusual at first glance, but because of its weight. While most 1995 cents weighed in around 2.5 grams, this one tipped the scale just a bit differently. Curious, Sarah examined it under a microscope and noticed the rim appeared slightly thicker, almost as if the coin had been struck on a planchet that was different in thickness or composition. The copper plating seemed a little uneven around the edges, too. Her curiosity led her to send the coin for professional grading and analysis. The results were stunning. The coin was confirmed as a genuine 1995 Lincoln cent struck on a thicker planchet, a planchet not consistent with standard production that year. Experts theorized that a small batch of thicker blanks, possibly leftover from previous years or rejected stock, had mistakenly entered the production line. These heavier planchets altered the coin's physical properties subtly but distinctly. This discovery opened a door to a rare collectible category, the 1995 thick planchet error cent. It wasn't a flashy double die or an off-center strike, but its rarity was profound precisely because such mistakes were extraordinarily uncommon by the mid-1990s, thanks to advanced production controls. It was an error born not of design but of material and process, a whisper of chaos in a highly regulated system. As news of Sarah's find spread, the coin's mystique grew. Collectors began hunting for other examples, but confirmed specimens remained exceedingly rare. The rarity, combined with the mystery of how these thicker planchets slipped through the mint's rigorous screening, fueled fascination. Coin shows, online forums, and auction houses buzzed with excitement. Speculation about the coin's origin deepened, with some suggesting it could be linked to experimental production runs or early tests of planchet compositions that were never officially documented. Over the following years, a few more specimens emerged, some found in circulation, others preserved in private collections for decades without recognition. Each discovery added layers to the story and pushed the coin's value higher. Initially, the error cents sold modestly, fetching a few $1,000s among niche collectors. But as authentication methods improved and provenance stories developed, bids climbed steadily. What made the 1995 thick planchet error cent even more compelling was how it blurred the line between ordinary and extraordinary. To a casual observer, these pennies looked like any other cent from that year. They did not scream error. But to those who weighed, measured, and studied them, each coin was a portal to a secret chapter of mint history. Detailed physical examinations revealed that the thicker planchets caused a subtle shift in strike pressure. Some coins showed slightly softer details, particularly around Lincoln's jawline and the columns of the Lincoln Memorial. Others exhibited minor distortions along the rim, as if the metal struggled under the force of the press. These nuances confirmed that the error was not a random anomaly but a trace of something distinct and unplanned. As the 1990s error cent became more widely known, auction houses began to feature it in catalogs alongside other sought-after errors. The price trajectory was dramatic. In the early 2010s, well-preserved examples sold in the $15,000 to $25,000 range. By the late 2010s, prices had surged, driven by growing collector demand and a limited supply. Graded coins with verified thick planchets and high grades fetched upwards of $50,000 at auctions. The coin's narrative was no longer just about metal and minting errors, it was about the thrill of discovery, the power of rarity, and the tantalizing glimpse behind the curtain of industrial precision. Collectors found themselves not just owning a coin, but a tangible connection to the human element of the mint's production. Today, the 1995 US 1 cent thick planchet error holds a special place in numismatics. Its value can range between $40,000 and $108,000, depending on condition and provenance. Yet beyond price, its true allure lies in its story, a small, nearly invisible deviation in millions of pennies that turned into one of the most coveted error coins of the modern era. It stands as a testament to the unexpected twists that can arise even in the most meticulously controlled environments, reminding collectors that history often hides in the smallest details. In the early years of the new millennium, the United States Mint continued its tradition of producing Lincoln cents, a design beloved for its consistency and historical significance. The year 2001 saw millions of these pennies enter circulation, each bearing the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. They were ordinary coins, handled by countless Americans every day, slipping quietly into pockets, jars, and cash registers. Yet, hidden among these everyday coins was a rare anomaly, subtle but profoundly impactful, a minting error that would captivate collectors years later. The 2001 penny was produced during a period when the mint had refined its processes, striving for perfection in every strike. Quality control was stringent, and errors were far less common than in earlier decades. But despite the best efforts of the mint's workers and inspectors, small mistakes occasionally surfaced. One such mistake involved the introduction of a unique and unusual planchet variation that went unnoticed at the time. Unlike glaring errors such as double dies or off-center strikes, the 2001 penny's anomaly was a nuanced variation in the planchet's thickness and weight. This difference wasn't immediately visible to the naked eye, and many coins passed through circulation undetected. But for a dedicated collector named Mark Lawson, a retired schoolteacher with a keen eye for rare coins, this penny would become the centerpiece of an unexpected discovery. Mark's journey began during a routine visit to a local coin show in 2015, where he purchased several rolls of pennies from various years. As he examined the coins at home under magnification, one 2001 cent caught his attention. It felt heavier than the others and showed a slightly different surface texture around the rim. Intrigued, Mark researched further and reached out to experts in the field of numismatic errors. The coin was analyzed by a professional grading service and was confirmed to be struck on a thicker than standard planchet, something that was never officially released or documented by the mint. This thicker planchet altered the coin's characteristics in subtle ways. The strike pressure was uneven, causing minor distortions in Lincoln's profile and the columns of the memorial on the reverse. The rim was more pronounced, almost as if the coin was struck on a sturdier metal blank. This discovery opened a new chapter in the world of Lincoln cents. Collectors began to understand that this error wasn't a random mistake but likely the result of a small batch of thicker planchets entering the production line unnoticed, perhaps leftover from experimental batches or rejects from previous years. The rarity of this error was compounded by the fact that only a handful of these coins had made their way into circulation. Word spread through numismatic communities and auction houses, sparking a hunt for other examples of this elusive 2001 penny error. Each new find added to the mystery and increased the coin's desirability. Early sales were modest, with coins exchanging hands for a few $1,000s among enthusiasts. But as authentication techniques improved and provenance was established, the value of these coins rose steadily. Collectors were fascinated not only by the rarity but also by the story behind the coin, the glimpse it offered into the intricate and sometimes imperfect process of coin manufacturing. The 2001 thick planchet penny became a symbol of the unpredictable nature of minting, even in an era of advanced technology and stringent quality assurance. Physically, these coins exhibited a range of subtle anomalies. The thicker planchets caused the design to appear slightly softened in some areas, particularly around Lincoln's cheek and the fine details of the memorial's columns. The edges, usually smooth and consistent, showed faint irregularities. These characteristics became identifying markers for collectors and graders alike. Over the years, as the market for rare coins evolved, the 2001 penny error carved out its own niche. Auction prices escalated from a few $1,000s to tens of thousands, fueled by increasing collector interest and the scarcity of verified specimens. High-grade examples with clear evidence of the thick planchet error sold for remarkable sums, highlighting how a small deviation in production could transform a common coin into a prized collectible. Today, the 2001 US 1-cent penny error stands as a testament to the unexpected surprises hidden within everyday objects. Its value ranges between $32,000 and $96,000, depending on condition and certification. Beyond the numbers, the coin embodies a fascinating story of discovery, rarity, and the human element woven into the fabric of minting history, a reminder that even the most ordinary coins can hold extraordinary secrets.